all unsolved mysteries in Gravity Falls. Got some Pringles for this.
Loved. Not only that, but it gave me a reason to go back and read the Book of Bill and Journal 3, which I hadn't done before. But it left me wondering, now that the series has been done for nearly a decade, and we have all the supplemental material, are there any questions that are still left unanswered? So today we will be covering every mystery left, shack-shaped or otherwise. And we might as well start with the biggest and most important question of all. Is it a rock that looks like a face or a face that looks like a rock? These are the mysteries that keep me up at night. Honestly, I could talk about this for hours, but what's that behind it? An axolotl.
No on this show is actually a face that look like a rock, bro. No on this show, bro. No cap.
Fine. I guess we can talk about the hidden god of the universe for now, rather than this rock, but we will be getting back to it. And maybe
God of this universe, huh?
Over there that look like a like and a subscribe button. Ahem. Despite the axolotl kicking off this list, they are actually pretty much the last thing that we hear about in the series. When Bill is finally defeated, he begins chanting, "Axolotl, my time has come to burn. I invoke the ancient power that I may return." But in classic Gravity Falls fashion, this is of course said backwards. So unless you went back to reverse it or spent 10 minutes online on really any page that mentioned Gravity Falls, you could watch the entire series and never hear about this thing at all, despite it being so powerful that Bill feels the need to beg it for his life. But that's all we had until Journal 3, where the axolotl is mentioned a few more times. For example, Bill comments on how the big frilly know-it-all won't be able to stop him, and later says, "Curse the axolotl, every conspiracy is true." More importantly though, they come up again as we learn more about Ford's journey through the multiverse. There are several groups of people who worship the big frilly guy, and even the refugees that Ford is trapped with alongside in the Nightmare Realm say things like, "Praise the axolotl." Ford soon finds himself in Dimension 52, where he comes across a seven-eyed woman who may or may not have been one of Bill's henchmaniacs in the past.
The crazy things about certain stuff that happens in TV shows, like Gravity Falls, for example, is they can repeat stuff over and over, but not go fully into it. And that thing, for example, like what they said about this so-called God of the universe, none of us actually think about it. Like, I did not even know that this was a thing. I never knew what it was. So if you don't really like go into it and figure this stuff out, you would just never know. Like me right now.
The Unswerving. She's actually the one who put the metal plate in Ford's head to help him fight against Bill, but more importantly, she also has the ability to see the future and create prophecies, which might be tied to what Ford draws behind her in the journal. We can see her with tapestries that have the axolotl on them, possibly showing a link between the mysterious god of the universe and the woman who can read fate. The third journal also has Ford explaining that he believes the axolotl is some kind of reflection of Bill. If the triangle represents chaos and destruction, then the pink boy might be hope and order. The axolotl also appears in Dipper and Mabel and the Curse of the Time Pirate's Treasure.
I don't know what that is.
Which notably isn't canon.
Gravity Falls to make a new season,
does mention that despite having dozens of potential paths, there is a singular massive secret hidden inside, which is canon. In the book, you can travel in the time and space between time and space, where you could follow a cipher and go online to find the axolotl who gives the twins a poem about who and what Bill really is. This reads, 60 degrees that come in threes, watches from within birch trees, saw his own dimension burn, misses home and can't return, says he's happy, he's a liar, blame the arson for the fire. If he wants to shirk the blame, he'll have to invoke my name. One way to absolve his crime, a different form, a different time. All of that basically implying that Bill was asking for the axolotl to give him redemption before he died so that he could have another chance at life. Naturally, we also learn about the axolotl in the Book of Bill. After being shattered, he returns to the axolotl and we get yet another poem. On the day Bill's cipher died, he used the trick he'd never tried. Shattered, broken, not yet dead, cipher left the con man's head. A desperate plea, some panicked prayers, to meet the frilly guy upstairs. In a tank outside of space, the opposites met face to face. Just one shot to live again, he pled his case to his old friend. Look from one god to another,
friends?
Who cares I tried to kill those brothers? They're all ants, it's all a game. Let's press restart and try again. I'm too cool and fun to die, just give this angle one more try. The axe sighed in a knowing way, he expected this was what Bill'd say. Cannot regrow through denial, you'll have to face my hardest trial. See my program to the end, then you may yet live again. By fighting demons, eating ghosts, you're getting what you need the most. One way to absolve your crimes, to change your form, will take some time. Bill could not believe his luck. This salamander was a schmuck. Easier than he ever thought it, he faked remorse. The guppy bought it. In combat, Bill was undefeated. Whatever challenge, he could beat it. Bill shook the axe's hand with glee. How bad could these trials be? Bill believed this meant the axolotl would test him with some trial by combat, but in reality, they were sending him to the Theraprism, a dimension where he could go to atone until he was ready to be resurrected. But
they threw Braun. Boy, go see the therapist, man. You tripping out there. Hey, boy, I ain't gonna lie. This nigga Bill should have expected that, boy. Nigga, he know how strong you are. They know how strong you are, Bill. They know you fucked up in the head too, though. Cause in Gravity Falls, your ass was out there tripping, putting Mabel's inside of wonderful lands made by her dreams, basically. Basically her dream. You was out there tripping. Nigga was doing 360s. Nigga, this nigga was third dimensional and all types of other shit, but this nigga tripping.
That's all we really know about this guy at this point. He's some all-powerful space deity with the ability to reincarnate and revive others. He's seemingly infinitely stronger than Bill, and he may be linked to the idea of fate and destiny. This leaves so many questions. Where did they come from? Why are they so powerful? And how do they connect to the rest of the story?
Exactly, because it had...
This may be the last ad you ever...
Ads. Think about it. They had to have did it to somebody to know they had the power. Who did they resurrect before, and how did it affect what was going on? Oh, I'll be back. Like, how did they know?
But more importantly, it makes me wonder if there are any other extra-dimensional beings out there. Bill was always presented as this all-powerful chaos demon, even stronger than the henchmaniacs or the Time Baby. But the idea of something so much more powerful makes me wonder if there are other beings on Bill's level or possibly on the axolotl's as well. Now, let's stick to the vaguely Bill-related things as we look at the Zodiac. Ford mentions how he found a cave with 10 symbols on it which formed a zodiac. These being icons that the native people of Gravity Falls prophesied would be able to stop Bill by reversing his weirdness. These symbols include a question mark, a bag of ice, a clam-shaped thing that is the icon on Stan's hat,
like a
pentagram,
horn,
a hand with 6 fingers, a pine tree, a llama, a shooting star, a heart with a stitch on it, and a pair of glasses, each of which could be associated with specific cast members, either in a physical or metaphorical way.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like that.
How did these ancient people know about modern
glasses? Clearly Ford.
Like glasses, English words like ice, or a question mark, as these shouldn't have been things that they would have known about thousands of years ago. Similarly, when Fiddleford comes out of the Nightmare Realm, he also has a prophecy. When gravity falls and Earth becomes sky, fear the beast with just one eye. As well, Bill mentions the prophecy of Weirdmageddon being a billion years old. The source of all of these prophecies is very much in the air. However, my best personal guess goes back to the Oracle that Ford met with. She was likely a henchmaniac, possibly a billion years ago, where she could have made that prophecy. It might have led to the division between her and Bill. We know she's connected to the axolotl, who speaks in rhymes and riddles, so I don't think it's a crazy assumption that she could have been the one to reach out to the ancient people of Gravity Falls to offer a way of defending themselves from Bill. This might have upset the Triangle, which led the Oracle to go into hiding, which is why she lives alone in Dimension 52. Then, when Fiddleford breached the Nightmare Realm, she had another chance to warn Earth about Bill. That's all entirely headcanon, of course, but it's fairly possible in my opinion. For now, though, we just won't know. Now, we've talked about ancient gods and demon-ending prophecies, but the single most important unanswered question in Gravity Falls is this. Why? Why are there so many weird and unexplained events
I always thought about that.
Small town? All we really have to go off of is that 30 million years ago, an alien spaceship crashed into the area. However, it is unclear if the ship was attracted to the region due to it being a natural magnet for weirdness, or if the ship brought the weirdness along with it. It's a bit of a chicken and the egg situation. Even if the ship isn't the cause of the weirdness, though, it absolutely has left an impact, as it will sometimes make animals sick or interfere with electrical devices from underground. But there is an anomaly that actually came with the aliens, and that is the shapeshifter. A note on the UFO's walls explains that Specimen has escaped his changing forms. Over the years, that shapeshifter shapeshifter seems to have reproduced, and eventually Ford finds an egg which hatches into it, and he brings it back into his lab to study it with Fiddleford. That leaves the question, is there just one shapeshifter? Are the originals dead? Are there
It
other
definitely
eggs
gotta
out
be
there
more
still
somewhere.
waiting to be hatched? And
Yup,
speaking of the
gotta
shapeshifter,
be.
when they're defeated by the Pines twins, the monster gives Dipper a prophecy
Think about it.
of how he will
How many animals is it realistically that just had like one egg and nothing else? Usually it's more than one egg. I'm telling you, man, there's definitely more eggs out there ready to be hatched, bro.
die,
No
screaming in
cap.
pain and posing in a very particular way.
How they
which
spread
we
them
see
around.
exactly happen when Dipper is seemingly killed by the ghost at the Northwest Mansion. Now, obviously, turning into Dipper and showing him how he will die is a crazy intimidation tactic. However, the accuracy of this threat is insane. So how did the shapeshifter know what would happen to Dipper? And speaking of Dipper, what happened to Dipper 3 and 4? When Dipper makes a small army of clones with the copy machine, most of them end up being destroyed when they come into
They
contact
get
with
away.
liquids. However, Dippers 3 and 4, named Tracy and Quattro, steal Robbie's bike and don't return to be destroyed. Though at the credits of Weirdmageddon 3, we get a quick clip of them camping in the forest, reading and playing a banjo together. But aside from that, we don't know anything about where they are now or if they've managed to stay away from water since then. And we might as well continue along with the Pines family here. In the Tale of Two Stans, we get a bit of a weird case. Stan and Stan were fighting one day, and the commotion causes their parents to come see what's happening. However, when their mom comes out, she is holding a baby. Most people believe that this is Shermy, the Stans' little brother and Dipper and Mabel's grandfather. However, that would mean that Sherman was only about 30 by the time that he was a grandfather. Technically possible, but only in creepy ways. Alex Hirsch
Yeah, I was about to say, what the
saying that the baby
fuck?
was intended to be Shermy, but he eventually realized that it would cause an issue with the timeline. He was hoping to come up with a useful solution to fix this issue and explain the baby, but he just never ended up getting around to it. So this is either just taking that face value as an error, or we can include it into the canon of the show as
They could just say that-
mystery. That is up to you. Back to Stanford though.
Why
and he is-
didn't why didn't he just say they was babysitting somebody else's kid? It could have really just been that simple at that point. They didn't have to say who it was. They could have just, he was babysitting. They was babysitting a friend's kid. That's all they really had to say. They didn't really have to make it too confusing. They could just say, okay, they was babysitting a kid. That's who that was. We don't have a name for the kid. It's just somebody, they was babysitting their friend kid.
Is often
Really that
described
simple.
as being strange for having 6 fingers on his hands, and yeah, that is pretty notable. But fingers in general are super strange in this series, to the point that it shouldn't be weird for anyone to have one more or less. Characters like Dipper, Mabel, and Wendy all have 4 fingers, while Stan, Gideon, and Seuss have 5. It is seemingly pretty random as to who has 4 and who gets 5 throughout the entire series, and this extends to the anomalies and the monsters as well. Obviously, we can just chalk it up to making animation easier or cleaner, or it might look better on some characters, which is something that we see all over cartoons. However, I just think it's a bit funny when the idea of someone having an extra finger is so significant to the series. Alright, that one doesn't really count, it's just for fun and just for me. But let's talk about one of my favorite unsolved mysteries,
Who's
Kirk's
that?
Code, the Unperceivable. In the journal section
Who
on
is
ghosts,
that?
we have categories that define the several types of ghosts in the series. Category 7 is the Eternal Key, and Category 8 is the Petrifying Rock, which is a lock. If the Eternal Key ever unlocks the Petrifying Rock, a being called Kirksicle the Unperceivable will be released, and we have no idea what this means. And even if we couldn't perceive Kirksicle, I'd still like to know more about it. It sounds
Exactly.
pretty cool. Of course, those aren't the only examples of the anomalies that we don't
Let us know about it.
understand
They
yet.
don't gotta
Many
know
of the
about it.
creatures we do get to have full fleshed out explanations for, or at least get to know in detail throughout the series, but the ones in the shorts, for example, are particularly weird and not really expanded on. The naked candy thief monster, the all-knowing mailbox, the island head beast, and the hide behind, for example, all super weird and we don't know much about them. The all-left robot and his little green men are also on this list, but they do get brought up in the 3rd journal. However, it is worth pointing out that Tad
Didn't they
Strange
get packed
seems to
up?
be acted away very similar to these guys as well, so maybe he is a tad more strange than you would think. But that is every unanswered mystery that I could think of. Let me know if I missed any, or if you have any theories that might explain the answers behind any of these. If you enjoyed, remember to leave a like and
Brother, I ain't gonna lie. I feel like Gravity Falls, they left so much stuff out that is like, now they can make a new season and they don't even have to really like be right after the storyline. It could like literally be a flashback or whatever the case may be of Nabal and Dipper figuring out, for example, the stuff that he was talking about. Just random ass episodes or overs or add-ons or whatever the case may be. They just need to make more content show-wise for this show. I ain't gonna cap. I'm not reading no books about Gravity Falls, bro. I'm only watching TV about it, bro. I ain't gonna lie. They need to do that. Like he said though, like, comment, and subscribe, man. I really need to hit that. You feel what I'm saying? You see this right here? You see this right here? I need to get to that follow button. I need to get to that follow goal, man. Come on, brother. Lock in.